Welcome to Starfleet Boy. Audience, please attend carefully. There are lots of spoilers for Star Trek in general. Now we're recording. Something just happened.
Oh, yeah.
That was,
yeah. I saw
it
that.
changed.
It did.
It changed.
Wow.
I'm supposed to avoid any legal ramifications and let you know that you're being recorded. Do you choose the danger?
It's a little too late for this one.
Do you choose the danger?
I choose the danger, yeah.
Okay, very good. That's how I'm going to let people know from now on.
We're in episode what, and you're asking me this? Like, oh, too late for that.
All right. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. I'm sorry, we didn't do the Addams Family. That's okay.
All right.
We're back. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are focused on Star Trek The Next Generation's, I think it's like the 17th or 18th episode of Season 7, Masks. Musaka has awakened, Doctor.
Indeed.
In fact, I spoke to Musaka on the phone.
You did?
Just before this conversation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was great. Musaka is rising in the sky. It is currently her hour.
All right.
She is waiting for...
I think I see her.
She does see Qualgano on the horizon, but she's not worried.
The hunt is on.
The hunt is on. Musaka has awakened. And I wanted to procure for the audience a photograph of the mask of Qualgano. I think I made the Qualgano mask. I don't think I made the Musaka mask. I don't remember. But my memory of it's very old. It's like over 20 years old, so I don't know. But anyways, I tried to procure a picture of this mask that I made, which we've talked about before on Starfleet Boy.
Right.
Like many episodes ago, but we'll talk about it probably at length, hopefully at length, in this episode. But it's in a box somewhere, so I can't procure it for the audience. So, although it is still a beloved part of the Musaka's collection, of the Empress's collection.
Excellent.
So that was good to know.
Can you describe the color of the mask? Didn't
I paint it like a silver?
Oh, you painted it silver?
Or was it white? I don't remember. I'm trying to remember.
Okay, then no. All right.
Why? What are you thinking? What's your recollection?
I can, as you know, I'm the doctor, and I have the ability to travel through time.
This is true.
So, and I don't like to show this off.
You also have the ability to change species, change gender. You're very.
You know what? There's a lot of rumors about what I can do. I want to set the world straight on a few of them, but this is neither here nor there. But I can access the past and the future, and I don't like to show off. But for the purposes of this program, if you will allow me,
you're gonna share your screen.
I want to share the screen, and I want to ask you what you think of this. And I spend a lot of time delving into the past. And let me see if I can.
All right, let's see.
Okay, all right. So
this is so exciting,
screen.
Doctor.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
No, I see it upon your face, though. The light of your screen.
Oh, you don't see the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Does it say? Does it say you're sharing? Let me see.
Hold on. Share screen. Oh, okay, I turned it off.
Oh, there. Something just happened. Now I see your screen.
Okay, so now I'm gonna go. Maybe just took a. All right. Do you see the picture I'm sharing?
I do. Wow.
It is in. We're going into the past, and I hope she won't be upset.
No, I don't think so.
I was thinking this right here was the mask.
That is not the mask.
That is not the mask.
However, you can see in this picture a raptor claw I made in the same period that I made the mask, and it's down below near the bottom of the books that are directly in the center of the screen. So if you
do you dare me to delve deeper?
Yes, I do dare you to delve deeper. This is cool. That was my hand. Where did you find this? Look at this. It's young Starfleet boy.
Now she is not here.
Wait, pause.
I paused.
That's okay. Pause there. I think the mask may be upon that altar.
Let us delve deeper.
All right. No. Oh.
Oh crap! Sorry, I can't control. Oh, okay. I can't. I'm trying to regain control.
There. Oh. There's the
that
raptor
was a
claw.
raptor claw.
Yep.
See, I thought that was the mask.
The thing you thought that was the mask was a tiki umbrella.
Oh.
Look at it. Look at it again, Doctor, with your older eyes. That's cool. I'm giving some kind of tour of the collection of things.
The collection.
Oh, wow. So I believe the mask is somewhere. Oh, no. No, but there's some cool stuff there. Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a cool altar. I need to rebuild my altar. And the chalice, the cup from which drank the Empress.
Yes.
I think we've gone through everything. I don't see it.
Yeah,
it's not on display.
I don't see it. Let me just.
It's possible it was held in a special place.
There's a mask up there.
No, that's not it. That I know that mask.
You know that mask?
Yeah.
So it is not that mask. All right. I don't know if I can go any deeper.
All right. Well,
I'm not sure.
Let's bring the. Who's that?
I don't know. We were asking that question back then. So
that's not
that
it.
Mask.
No. It looks just like Quilgano's
there are many
mask.
masks.
as is true for all of us. But oh look, there's the that could be the ancient. No, that's another mask, but not the one I did. I'm trying to see. Oh, there might be something on this shelf. No, that's not it. That's what's his face's mask. There are a lot of masks in this this thing here, this tour. This is real, I may have to cut this out because it's gonna be irrelevant unless we find them. Audience,
I can go no further because the rest of it is time locked.
Okay, got it. Very good.
If you understand,
I understand
my meaning. So
I do.
Let me return.
Unshare your screen. Audience, I apologize for that. Well, actually, it might be interesting. I know Sean will enjoy seeing young Starfleet boy. Up until recently, I still had that very cool sweater.
You don't have it anymore?
It finally turned into strings. It just collapsed.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, it's kind of neat to watch a garment change over 20 years. But
wow.
we all have that shirt or hat.
Yeah, I have many shirts like that. Now we're back to normal, right?
We're back to normal.
I'm not sharing the screen anymore.
You've come back. You've stopped using the time scoop.
Okay.
The time scoop is deactivated.
Is deactivated. Okay.
Could you imagine the two Starfleet boys? Like, if you could somehow pull him out with the time scoop and bring him to this moment and say, "This is what you're gonna be doing in in 20 years, buddy." What would his reaction be? What would Starfleet what would
delighted.
I think so.
So we have to give context to just what just happened.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. So basically, there was a time before YouTube where we made home videos. Like, that's what that was. That was an example of documenting one's personal life, and it's precious gold to me and probably to the Empress as well. And I know it is to you, but like, it means obviously very little to many other people. But like, that's a cool thing to possess, and now it's digitized. For a part of it is now digitized. It's so very meta. It's very exciting.
And to make things even more meta, we were watching a video of
us.
Of us. It was in the background playing as we're talking, and now we're including this footage. Now talking over that footage, so it's like different levels.
Ooh, I'm exhausted from all the meta. It's a lot of meta. That's a lot of meta.
It's a lot of mythology, which is what this episode is about.
Oh wow, Doctor
mythology.
Doctor slipping right in to the episode summary. Well done. I'm very impressed with you right now. It is. Mask has a very special place in my heart. If we had been successful in revealing the mask of old that I made, as the audience knows, we did these discussions 20 years ago in the library at our high school. After, particularly in season, I guess, 5, 6, and 7. I think that's where we overlapped. Where it was right, like season 7, you were already gone. Were you? No. When did No, this would be the year we're all watching season 7 together.
We're all watching season 7 together. So yeah. I feel that season 7.
When we were in high school, yeah, it's the one season that we all coalesced on.
Right.
Although we were all watching Star Trek,
we all knew we were about to venture into feature adventures.
Yes.
But we're finishing out, I mean, you guys stayed for 2 more seasons at the school, but I was moved off to the feature films, and then we all,
We made cameos though. I think that's obviously a testament to that moment in time. Is in particular, you and I are still dear friends, and we're here. And I'm mostly dear friends with the others. No, I think I'm very dear friends with the others. But yeah, so it's hard to do this episode without talking about the past. But anyways, I was inspired so much by the imagery, the symbolism, as Picard says in this episode, that I started creating the props. I started creating them in ceramics class. I took a ceramics class, and so I made Quilgano's mask. And like, I don't remember how in my mind, it was, the memory I have is that it's somewhere between Quilgano and Musaka's mask. Like, it's not exactly what you saw on screen, but we didn't have the luxury of, like, I couldn't just print out what was on screen and bring it to ceramics class. So I had to sit at home, kind of draw from memory what I thought it looked like. And so I know if we see it, it'll look very different from the prop. But now I can do it. In fact, one of my goals when life opens up again will be to go to one of these, like, you could go to these, a lot. And speaking about supporting small businesses, like, there are businesses where you can go and, like, do clay sculpture, or you could do clay sculptures if I wanted to go back to that medium. and fire it up in a kiln and make a more accurate looking. I want to do clay because that's what Data made his mask out of. It was made out of clay, so that would be really cool.
It's amazing that, it's amazing that, what you were just saying. Back then, we just relied on memory, and now we have some. People take instant screen caps. The video is like on demand, or you can pause. But back then, being a fan was a lot of memory. It was just remembering.
Being a human relied heavily on the accuracy of your memory, and we were trained to be as accurate as possible. Although we've learned now that these are the effort to accuracy is probably more of a savant type or like a rare skill. The human mind just doesn't care about accuracy. It's not concerned with it in real life, according to what some scientists are starting to discover. And I think that's fascinating because that is 100% my experience. I was so excited. I was hoping we would see the mask because I was wanting to reconcile what I had in my memory with what reality was, which is a glorious experience when you have the documentation to do that with. So it's very cool.
Well, memory figures very firmly in this episode, and I found just the idea of the episode of the Enterprise encounters this comet. They basically blow off the residue of the comet, and they uncover this.
Well, they find that this comet has been drifting through space for 84 million years, and it's never been charted before. It's this is part of the exploration part that I love about the idea that we have to debate, is this a Picard episode or is this a Data episode? Because that's that's a question I have, and I think I know the answer, but I'd love to see what you think. But anyways, not to interrupt your great summary so far, but yeah, it's 87 million or 84 million years old, and it's never been charted before. And by the way, Discovery did something. I don't know how far you got in Discovery season 2, or if you ever even went there, but in season 2 of Discovery, they do something similar, and the whole season plot hinges upon that chance meeting with this ancient thing that's orbiting around around the galaxy, or possibly the universe. So it's pretty cool.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I found when they uncover and I guess it's a floating temple in space, basically, right? It this
must
ancient structure that resembles. I mean, it sort of resembles. It has elements of Aztec. I mean, to us, it seems vaguely Aztec, vaguely Mayan. It's ancient.
It oddly serves the same purpose as the probe from the Inner Light. In which case, it's like an arc of that civilization, something that is a remnant of this long ago civilization. Except this is way more conceptual and far out and weird than the Inner Light, but it has a similar vibe in that we're not, hopefully, knock on wood, we're not facing extinction here on Earth just quite yet. But if we were, I could see us sending something like that out just to drift in the hopes that one day it would be found, and that somehow we could convey what we were to another, another
right
like us. So it was a cool concept from that perspective.
Yeah, it's funny you compare it to the Inner Light. In a way, this is the outer light, because it's beaming this energy to the Enterprise, right? And it's recreating, and I found it fascinating. It was taking the elements of the Enterprise, the matter of the Enterprise, and transforming it into this alien planet. It was recreating the exteriors of the society.
Yeah, Geordi was like, I don't know how it's doing it, but it's taking just like
the DNA, everything. Yeah.
It's rewriting our DNA and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's and I thought the way that was that showcased in the episode, in the production design and the lighting. I cannot stop praising the lighting in this episode. And I'm gonna right now. I'm just gonna single out the scene where, and I know we're kind of jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
But at this point, Data becomes the sort of the surrogate in a way for this whole process, and he is speaking different personalities in the saga of Musaka, and so he's giving voice to what's going on, to this unfolding story on the Enterprise. And Picard, the archaeologist in him, comes out. It's the full Picard here in that regard, and he's scene, almost, you can sense that there's a sense of joy almost to him tackling this problem. And the scene where he goes to speak to is it Organo?
No, Quilgano is at
Quilgano?
the end. It's the first guy is named like oh geez, I can't remember his name, but he's like kind of a mischievous, like like running away. That guy. We'll just call him Loki for now.
We'll call him Loki.
But
he finds the old man. He finds Masaka's father.
Right.
And he's resting against the fire and the lighting in there. I mean, the lighting outside is all you're getting is just these orange lights of the emergency security lights in the hallway, and then you come into the room and you've got the lighting of the fire, and you've got these two actors just engaging in this plot in the dialogue, and that's a standout scene for me. And Data Brent Spiner going through these characters like nothing. I mean, it's almost he'll go like this, and then he's somebody else, and he'll go like that, and he's somebody else.
Remarkable performing, remarkable performance. Yeah, it's very cool. I also love that you see something I noticed in particular in this viewing was just how like well they did with transforming the Enterprise. Like you can kind of see like it's subtle at first. Like I love that it starts with like the icon appearing in the statue appearing in Counselor Troy's quarters, and she's like wondering who left it there for her, and it goes further from there. And I also liked how the what do you think would have happened if they couldn't turn it off? Like, would they have all died? Was there an existential crisis here? Like, do you think that's what was going to happen?
The episode doesn't... a life support is maintained throughout.
And none of the humanoid characters seem to... We didn't start seeing
Picard
horrors.
Is annoyed that the ship... Right. But there is that funny part where Picard is like, I will not have my ship turned into an alien planet or something like that.
Right, or a temple or whatever, yeah.
Or alien temple. But suffice to say, my impression is that they didn't want to kill the audience. They're hoping that the audience that encounters it would have figured out how to turn it off. And if they're not smart enough, then they're just kind of stuck. In the saga of Musaka, and I guess.
Wow. So you think there could have been, if the Ferengi had discovered it, it could have gone a totally different,
totally different. Or
At the end of the episode, Starfleet is dispatching a ship, like a research vessel, a science, like a pure science vessel, to study it. And that would be interesting to see if like something happened that like like what happened to this technology, like what ended up going on. Is there a is it an artifact as well, now that we know that like you can treat it? Is actually in a way it resembles how they treated how future people treated the Borg cube. It's an artifact essentially, and it's being studied, which is very fascinating to me. that concept lives in this episode in some weird way, or is it just that I'm reaching? I might be reaching.
No, I think I would love like a novel where we return to there's so many episodes that I mean, this is something that in the season recap I would definitely advocate for a return to Lasaka, whether by through Next Generation or through new characters. What has been learned in all those years, because I just think it's fascinating. I mean, the level of technology that they had was way beyond anything that's there in the 24th century. I mean, they're transforming matter on a scale that is boggling Geordi. I mean, they were able to obviously interact with it, because remember, they were able to put in symbols, and
they figured out how to activate certain things. Yeah, it's true. They had a rudimentary kind of connection or interface with it. So you're absolutely right. You remember that asteroid that passed near the Earth, maybe it was a year ago or 2 years ago, and some
we had
people
one 3 days ago or something. Believe it or
no,
not.
I know, but there was one in particular that was shaped oddly, and some scientists were saying that it might be an alien device in and you could see something like that being real when you think about this episode, because for all this time, it was for 84 million years. It was in a snowball. It was a comet.
Yeah.
It was buried in a comet.
Buried in a comet.
Or I think Picard suggested it accumulated.
This is a high concept.
It accumulated all these particles and
for
crystals and things like that. The other thing that's extraordinary is that it just floated uncharted for that long too. That the Enterprise was the first to encounter it since its launch, basically.
Yeah. Well, that adds to the whole the air of mystery in the episode of what is this, where does this come from. I loved it.
Me too. I actually even thought, what if it was actually a Genesis device, like an ancient Genesis device? Its mission is to find an uninhabited kind of planet devoid of sentient life, so that it could recreate the matrix of that civilization on a new world. Could you imagine that?
Well, tying it into, historical fact, the Earth was struck by an asteroid, right? How many millions of years ago? Extinction of the dinosaurs. In theory, that comet could have hit a planet, and who knows what would have come about if that had happened. Would that have started?
Oh, wow.
Would that have been like a monolith? Like in the sense of 2001, would that have been a
You just went so deep, Doctor. I just got so much. What's that expression?
This episode, when we were in school, was a high watermark.
Yeah, it was a hit.
Yeah. I think all of us reacted to it. Now, the Empress reacted to it in a very, very, very deep, profound way. I remember, and you did as well.
Right.
Would you credit this episode with? We were all very young at that point. It was early in our friendships, but would you credit an episode like this as a cementing of the bonds with the Empress? Because it's the two of you really, you made the mask, you gave it to her. She was really, the episode meant a lot to her, meant a lot to you. Do you think this is one of the, the building blocks to just the glorious friendship that you guys still share today?
I would say that yes, it was definitely one of many. There were so many.
There are many, but is it one of them?
100% one of them. I wouldn't call it a definitive one. I think there were other. I remember The Inner Light was one that was in particularly definitive, but in the sense that creating a physical representation of that bond, yes, this has a unique like creating that mask and like giving it as a gift. And I remember I used to have the companion mask.
Yeah.
I made 2 masks. Now that
Right.
maybe I'm making that up. I don't remember.
No,
but I had one
remember
too.
that.
I don't know. I can't remember. It's so hard to remember, Doctor.
That's what the videos are for.
That's what videos are for. But there was a lot of mythos, as you pointed out, surrounding this on a personal level. I would love to know if anyone else in the audience had like some kind of like profound, deep connection to this episode. It might just be the 4 of us, or the 3 of us, or the 2 of us. Like I'm not sure, but like it would be really interesting to know what other things. But just like beyond that, like this episode definitely, for that reason and many others, I'm realizing has stuck with me over the years. I really do go back to this episode quite often. I've watched it probably countless times. Like I definitely get excited. I've shared this episode like when I'm like, oh, you want to see how cool Star Trek The Next Generation is? Check this episode out. Like it's really interesting, and like it prompts a lot of great conversations then and now, as we've made all these like new connections based on current events. So yeah, it's pretty far out. I think I love that about this episode, and I continue to now. I reaffirm that love today. I would agree that it was a seminal moment in my youth, and that probably has a lot to do with my appreciation of this episode.
Yeah, I can't praise this episode enough. Taking it to the acting for a moment. I mean, obviously Brent Spiner was beyond, great. And I mean, this was a standout episode for Brent Spiner, I think. As well, you were alluding to earlier. Is it a Picard episode or is it a Data episode? I will hand it off to, in terms of character, the character in universe. In terms of in universe, I will give it to Picard, because it's really Picard who leads on everything. If you look at the rest of the crew, they're all. Riker is befuddled. He doesn't understand what the hell is going on. This is way beyond Riker's comprehension.
He's just trying to make sure. He's getting a ton of calls from all his lieutenants, and they're just like, Commander, can you help us out here? We have no idea what to do. And he's just he's just trying to keep it. He's like, just stay calm, everyone. Like, we're on it on the bridge. We're like trying to figure it out. Make emergency preparations to keep everyone busy. But that's where he's totally at. It's true.
Yeah, he's definitely out of his element here. I mean, there's a wonderful scene where he goes into Picard's ready room, and Picard has all of the artifacts, and you can see that Picard is just like really
studying
into it.
He's
his speech patterns even change. He's speaking faster. He sounds less. I don't want to say less authoritative, but yeah, in a sense, less authoritative and more like collegial with him at that point. And Riker has a smile. He's always looking, like over his shoulder, and he's got this smile because he can recognize that Picard at that moment is not Captain Picard.
He's just Jean-Luc.
He's Jean-Luc Picard, archaeologist.
Do you see this guy in Star Trek Picard? I do. I feel like I see a lot of this Jean-Luc in Star Trek Picard, just from like how he gets giddy again when he starts going on his mission. He's like very much. I feel a lot of connections to Star Trek Picard also in this episode.
Not yet.
Okay,
I'll say that.
It's too soon.
I'm gonna leave the door open for the possibility, but no, I don't see that. I don't see that quite yet. But I really loved the like I said, in universe, I think I give it to Picard because he's really the one that And then there's that moment where he says, okay, let's go with was it Giordano? I forget what the final Corgano part of the program where the mask appears, and the rest, his bridge crew is kind of like, "Are you sure? Well, what happened? How do we know this is really what's supposed to happen?" And Picard is really going on his instinct and his guts, and he knows this is the right decision, and he does it, and he's like, "I'm going to play it by ear," because they're asking him, "How do you know what to say?" "I'm going to play it by ear. I'm going to," he really takes full command here.
I mean, what do you have to
lose? Not that he's not always in command, but I mean, he really saves the ship, himself, and everybody else is kind of like, okay, you know.
No, but I mean, everyone is working on. I mean, you have war.
No, they are.
But they're consulting. Really... I liked about this episode that everyone kind of has something to offer in terms of consultation. Like Worf is there, with him and Counselor Troy when the temple is created and they start examining the figures, and Worf looks really intrigued in that part. But you're right, it is Picard leading everything. But I just
Worf
love that scene.
Yeah. I do like the fact that Worf is there, because Worf, with the Klingon, the rich Klingon mythology,
right?
Worf being how he is about his own history, and he was actually he's a better choice to be there than, let's say, Riker or Geordi.
Yeah, he was great. He was great, and I think Picard would have picked him for that very reason as well, is to help. He's trying to decipher what this he's trying to do a best guess of what all these symbols meant to the civilization, and why not have someone who's obsessed with this culture, an ancient civilization that is also steeped in symbology. So yeah, of course. But I do like Michael Dorn shines in that moment when he looks really intrigued and really you could see the wheels turning in Worf's head, a la vis-a-vis the performance there, and it's really nice.
Yeah, Worf is engaging a side of his thinking that he rarely gets to. Actually, Worf has a very good episode, because not only does he get to play along with Picard in that sense, but there's also a moment where Picard's like, "Yeah, fire a torpedo at it," and Worf is like, "Yeah, okay, let's go." And they're actually working on the torpedo. That's another great scene.
Yeah, that's another snake.
And snakes pop out, and it goes crazy with the snakes.
The other question I had was, so the episode starts out on a routine day where they're having some sort of a guest speaker at the class, and it's Counselor Troy, at this art class, and she's like, "Today you're not going to learn technique, you're going to focus on feeling and this and that." And it's interesting that we have Data in the class as well, as if this is something why is he there? Does he train with children on things that are just that are things that are beyond him, or that are out of his grasp? So I thought that was an interesting scene, and I wondered if they'd never encountered the probe, what would have been the end of that episode? Where would that episode have gone?
That would have been day 2.
Does it end with Data sculpting a replica of the Michelangelo's David? Where does it go? Where does Data's feelings take him on this episode? And I was just curious. I'm glad that got a laugh, because that was my
Yeah, I have to admit, the opening of the episode is not the strongest.
That kid is priceless, though. The kid reacting.
Oh, the kid, yeah, he is priceless.
When he's
very natural.
He's very natural, and he also he seems like, what the hell are you trying to tell me here? I'm trying to make a bird, and you're telling me to focus on my feelings. I love it. He's like, I'm trying to make an accurate bird. My teacher taught me to be accurate, and now you're telling me to forget about all that. It's a really good realistic type interaction. I liked it.
That's true, but there were two things about that was one of them, about the opening. That I was like, I'm sure that there's people. I'm sure Riker complains. It's like, where's Lieutenant Commander Data? Is he in that damn class again? Can you tell him to go do his job? And then the other thing that I thought was kind of weird was when Troy goes to her quarters, and
with Beverly, which I think is the only time we see Beverly in this episode.
yeah, no,
Is
she's
that the-
there
oh, no.
in when they get together on the bridge.
Oh, you're right. That's right.
So they go into Troy's quarters, and Troy's like, "What is this?" And Crusher's like, "Come on, we're late for Pilates or whatever." And I think, is it Crusher that says, "Oh, maybe it's a secret admirer"?
Yeah,
and
she
Troy's
does.
like,
and that's
Troy
an interesting thing.
is not concerned in the least that a total stranger has gone into her quarters and left an obelisk. She's just like, "Ooh, someone's been in my quarters." I'm like, what the hell?
Is it that easy to just go into someone's
Like,
quarters? By
why
the way?
is that not like, Worf, has someone been in my quarters?
Okay, to be fair, you could request that the computer transport it into someone's quarters. Like,
No, but
I could be
that's
like,
not the impression.
I could be like, computer, send Lieutenant Humbert a send him a chocolate milk surprise when he gets home. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, no, but that's a little. I don't know. I found that to be a curious.
It is pretty curious. It is very curious.
Like,
They were going off to do some sort of. It was like
it's
that.
the Worf class. It's
The
the
cl-
Pilates,
yeah, exactly.
The playing on the Pilates. Yeah.
It would be more akin to Tai
Or
Chi
CrossFit.
doctor. Tai Chi doctor. They were going to Tai Chi.
Okay,
Oh, it could be
whatever you wanna call
CrossFit.
It could be CrossFit.
It. And
whatever.
they look great. I
I-
mean, they're in great shape. All the people I've ever seen doing CrossFit look like Dr. Crusher and Counselor Troy.
Other than that, I think the episode is I enjoy it thoroughly. And then I didn't finish my previous point, which is
It does
in
serve.
universe,
You have to admit that the mundane things do serve when you're first watching it, when you're first
Sure.
experiencing this episode. It serves to kind of
lull
clear
you
the
into-
mind, right? And also just kind of clear the mind. It subverts the expectations, right? Because you're like, you think it's going in one direction subconsciously, and then so it is a bit of clever writing, perhaps, to do it
Yeah.
that way. It may
No,
just
you're
not.
correct. You're correct. Now, I would say that not in universe. What's the opposite of in universe? I guess in reality, I give it to Brent Spiner. I think it's Picard's episode, but
You're
it's
such
also
a-
Brent Spiner's.
You're such a good diplomat, Doctor. You've done it.
No, I mean
No,
the
it's
acting.
true.
The acting.
Yeah,
Think
it's
about
true.
what we saw there.
You're saying from a experiential level, we give it to Picard because that's where what we're experiencing. But from like a behind the scenes technical like critique, like this other level, we're gonna give it to Brent Spiner because he is badass, amazing as in this episode. He does something
Absolutely.
very very cool, yeah, which stood out even back then.
Yes, and I think, and I didn't get a chance to look for it, but I believe in this magazine here, this is I just lost a bookmark. But I believe Brent Spiner alludes to having very little time to prepare for this episode, and he's just had a heavy episode. He did the one where he's what's the episode that where he's Frankenstein on the planet.
Oh, he just did the one we just talked about
recently.
Thine Own Self.
Yeah, Thine Own Self. He's recently done Thine Own Self, and now he's given this script where he's essentially playing 3 to 4. Is it 3 characters? 4 characters.
I think 4,
if you count
but
Data.
But conceptually, he's inhabited by thousands. So even as a performer, he had to kind of like keep that in mind, and it shows in the way that he chooses to like depict it. I do like also just the editing. I want to point out because when he switches characters, you see all these things change. Like some like the little badges on his chest plate, those would change with every character, and that's all part of the subtle production and editing and who directed this episode? I didn't have time to look it up. Do you know?
You know what? I'd have to look it up. I'll look it up right now.
Let me see. TNG masks. Let's let the internet tell us who the director of this episode. It was Robert Weimer, and it was written by Joe Menosky. So
Joe
kudos.
Menosky, yep.
Who has been participating in all of the most recent Trek endeavors. Joe Menosky wrote for Discovery. I don't know if he wrote for Picard, but he's on the team. What are you finding there, Doctor?
Oh, the magazine makes. I don't know how we possibly, and this obviously tying back to our own personal mythology. One of the reasons that the Empress was so taken with this episode is that this story evokes what Picard did and had to do in Darmok.
Yes.
The
communicate,
right?
And connect with an alien civilization.
The kind of interpretation the kind of thinking that he's using in this episode is the kind that he showcased in Darmok.
Oh,
so
wow.
Those two episodes actually have a lot in common. He's trying to figure out this culture from scratch.
This is like the culmination of like Darmok, Inner Light, like all these different things, and like you know. Also, we like to talk about Star Trek is best at its heart when it's doing like discovery and exploration type, and like this kind of like high concept. And I think it wins in that category too. Like this episode's a winner in terms of like it's a very like science fiction heavy episode.
Absolutely. Oh, this is definitely high concept. And I quote here, this is Ron Moore. He says, "It was a difficult show. It was a very intellectual concept and was a very intriguing idea. It became hard to grasp and very complex. Joe Menosky, brings a genuinely different sensibility to the show. His interests and his strengths as a writer are different than the rest of us. He comes at things from an interesting slant. They are intellectual puzzles, and they make you think differently. Sometimes he sends in the stories, and we read them and stare at each other and say, I don't know what he's going for. We're just baffled. But it's not because he's a bad storyteller. It's just that he is thinking in ways that we are not thinking. I'm glad Joe is still working with us." And then that's a quote from Ron Moore talking about speaking to that episode. And you were just saying that Joe Menosky is still involved in Star Trek, and I guess he represents a force in behind the scenes in Star Trek of trying to, as Ron Moore pointed out, trying to bring a different spin to what Star Trek can be, to what a Star Trek story is, and adding more layers. And I think this story definitely, for me, shows a side to Picard that we'd seen before, but I wish we'd seen more of. And I really enjoy this aspect of Picard. It's probably one of my favorite aspects of Picard, and it shows his unique way of exploring the universe. If we're going to compare captains, Kirk had one way of exploring the universe. His was a lot more swashbuckler, but Picard is more Indiana Jones, if you want to compare. And I think this episode definitely showcases that.
I'd like to take a minute, since we've been talking so much about Joe Menosky. I don't know if we ever did this before, but his writing and credits are very interesting because they include many, a lot of Star. He's a very heavy Star Trek writer, but he did Hunter. He did a few. He did like 36 episodes of Hunter. You remember that show?
I have it back there, as a matter of fact. Oh, I gotta look for his.
He did one episode. Well, there's 36 of them. You can go on IMDb and look them up, so you can have a Joe Menosky Hunter.
Hunter was a great show.
It was a great show, but he was heavily involved in that show, as you can see. He did a show that I loved. One episode. I wonder what the story behind that is. My Secret Identity. Do you remember?
Oh my god!
I love that
Secret,
show.
That was what's his name? That he went on to
Sliders. And he's now back. He's in Star Trek. Jerry O'Connell in Lower Decks. He's one of the characters on Lower Decks.
Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, so that's a Jerry O'Connell connection.
God.
There, really timey-wimey there, and Joe Menosky, and then he wrote
That was a good show.
33 episodes of TNG. He wrote a handful of episodes of Deep Space Nine, and about 37 episodes of Voyager, and then he went on to do the Dead Zone, Quattro Cento, Salem, and then one episode of Discovery and one episode of The Orville as a writer. But I do want to point out that as a producer, he has produced 14 episodes of The Orville, so he's still very much connected to is that Braga show, right? Brandon Braga show is doing The Orville, so it's interesting that they're still working together.
That's
and
good.
Nice, yeah. And he also
So he didn't
produced-
work on Picard then.
No, he has not worked on. According to
He need to
IMDb.
bring him to Picard.
Yeah, I agree. Season 2 of Picard needs a little Joe Menosky.
Yeah, I think this episode clearly proves that he has a real good handle on the character of Jean-Luc Picard.
Of Jean-Luc Picard. Bring Joe Menosky to season 2 of Star Trek Picard. But I mean, maybe he's just tied up with the Orville. I keep trying to remind everyone that it's a small pool. It's not an unending fountain of people out there. And so when people are upset about why isn't so and so working on Star Trek, it's well, maybe it's not the priority for that person that it is for you. Right. We have to remember. It's
Sure. You want to work on a variety of things. I mean, I'm thinking in my head. You mentioned Mike's Secret Identity,
right?
Which is a half-hour sci-fi teenage comedy
sitcom. It's a comedy drama. It's a unique show. It's a comedy drama. It's funny, but it's also very serious sometimes.
But I remember it was a half hour, which is a unique challenge in and of itself.
And it's a Canadian. It's a Canadian show. Sean was kind of baffled. He's like, "You like all these? I like Reboot, and I love that when I was a kid. They're both Canadian shows."
It was good. You had that, and to say that he worked on Hunter, which is way in the other. That's a gritty, cop drama, clearly of its time, and then this episode just so far from Hunter. I can't even imagine it's the same guy.
But it is interesting. Joe Menosky is credited. This is going to be something interesting if we can find this documentary. But he plays himself in a documentary called "The Foreign Filmmaker's Guide to Hollywood." One of our newest Starfleet boy guests, Blair, who I've known for many years, who finally came on, and we're going to have him on again, found out about the 25th anniversary documentary, Reunification, the TNG documentary. Have you ever come across that in your travels, Doctor? It's called Reunification, the documentary.
No.
It's for TNG's 25th.
No. Maybe is it? Where was it show? Is it on a Blu-ray? I mean, on a DVD?
That's the only thing that I can think of that is. It might be on the Blu-ray for TNG. So I'm gonna have to see if I can find it. But now I'm on the hunt, and so I was wondering if you had any information. Audience, if you have any information about that documentary, please post it in the comments below. But I think we got to round it out. Do we get any? Joshua Chapman on this episode, Doctor? Yeah, we do. Yes.
Of course, we are in mental contact. Here. Okay, I gotta pull a Kirk here and look over the
very
rim of my glasses.
Nicely pulled.
Thank you. These are aliens who lived millions of years ago. They built a library in space, and then it turned into a comet. Then the Enterprise found it, and it reprogrammed the Enterprise and also Data. Data was infected with the personalities with people from Darcy mythology, which sucks. because all of them had really annoying voices and acted annoying too. Even though these aliens could build interstellar libraries, they still really liked mythology, which is weird. I mean, I like reading books about mythology, but it's not like I believe that stuff is real. I think once a civilization gets smart enough, they should probably stop thinking that the sun is a god, especially if they have spaceships. You can tell that Data is really freaked out by the situation because he knows things about the aliens that he shouldn't know, and then Geordi is running a diagnostic and something snaps in Data, and he asks Geordi what it feels like to lose one's mind, and that is when the other personalities take over. Losing your mind is something I think about a lot. There are a lot of times that I get furious at my mom for the way she acts, but there are also lots of times that I just feel, I don't know, I feel overwhelmed and panicky because I know that things are about to get worse and there is nothing I can do to stop it. And when this happens, I just start constantly thinking about doing things like jumping out of a window or falling down the stairs or taking a bottle and breaking it and using the shards to cut up my face.
What? Joshua Chapman? You're reading ahead. It's okay. It's just, what happened?
I think I'm going to stop there. That was a little more intense.
Wait, I gotta know how it ends. How does it? He can't possibly. Joshua Chapman can't let us down, Doctor. He's done so well so far. Come on.
This is strong stuff here, man.
It is. Well, he is an angsty. He wrote this when he was an angsty teenager. You have to remember. You have to remember.
All right. So I cut my arms and my legs sometimes, but that is different. I can control when I do that, and it helps me feel better. But this other stuff feels like I'm falling apart, and I'm not going to be able to stop myself when it finally happens, and that really scares me. I hate my life. I should not have to feel this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Wow. That was...
wow.
That was unexpected.
Joshua Chapman just totally took this episode into a direction that I never thought. What is he, age 17? I'm pretty certain.
Age 11 or 12, actually.
There are more entries, and I'm pretty certain Joshua Chapman got out of his funk there. He's okay.
Yeah.
But,
no, he made it. He gave
that
only 2 stars in his...
we're not counting Josh. Thank goodness we don't have to shit count age 17 Joshua Chapman. Very different from age 17 Starfleet boy, who we all saw at the beginning of this video. I do want to say though that like something Trek on the Tube started saying, and I want to I'm glad I was reminded about that, is that like even though we're kind of like, whoa, and like reacting to this in a heavy way, what he's highlighting, what the author of those books is highlighting there, is that there are people that, go through some pretty extreme like and dark moments during times of stress. And so if you're feeling that way, Starfleet boy, Trek on the Tube, we're here to talk. Just start in the comments if you want. Send me a message on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you want, if you want to talk about what's going on, because these are dark times. And as you know, Doctor and I, and I would like to now dedicate this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation's discussion, our Starfleet boy discussion, to my aunt, who would have loved this episode. I would love to know what she would have thought of it. She's very erudite, and she read so many. She was like, probably you would have liked her, Doctor, because she read just as voraciously as I remember you read, and so I think she would have enjoyed this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation a lot. And she died through complications of COVID-19, so it's very it's very real for some people. And so if you want to talk, audience, I'm here for you. And that goes for you too, Doctor. If you ever want to talk, I'm here for you, but you know that.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm glad we're at the end. We've gone on we could go on longer. There's a few things that Joshua Chapman did highlight before his confession of his state of mind, that were interesting. But I I think what he's not seeing in his 17-year-old kind of, mind is that the probe could be interpreting could have selected that way of presenting the data or the about the civilization based on what we would understand. And I think humans of this time, though they're very advanced, are still very much connected to their symbolic past, and and that's something that's very relatable, as you can see. So I would argue that Joshua Chapman missed that in his in his assessment. So.
Yeah.
The Starfleet boy. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm gonna say I'm happy to say that us, when we were younger, we were able to catch all that, which he did not, apparently.
I give this episode a very solid 10, Doctor.
This episode is, rarely do I indulge in. I mean, well, last night I said, because I watched it last night, and I was like, oh, this is a really good episode. But I have a lot personally invested. It's a 10 for me.
Yeah, you're like, why am I even trying to justify my rating here? It's just a 10. This is one of those occasions
it is
where
a 10. I think it shows. I think it's the best. It shows the best of what the show can offer. Picard is a highlight. Data is a highlight. The acting is great. The production design was phenomenal.
The supporting cast is great.
The supporting cast is great. The ideas and concepts were very, very, they were just very intriguing, and the story grabs you right to the very end. And
certainly, our discussion was lively the whole time, and until poor Joshua. I really feel for Josh. I want to know now what happened to Joshua Chapman. Now I'm concerned. Now I've got to find out.
No, he's fine. He's fine. No. And remember, no, he's fine. He's fine. Yes, actually, I'm trying to bring things back to a lighter note. I'm delving. Oh no, I can't. No, I lost it. That's too bad.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah, there was something I wanted to show, but we'll just talk about it briefly. Do you remember the map of it was like a map that you made, and everybody had a stake in this land, and you had like a Star Trek world.
Is that right?
You don't remember this?
I do. I vaguely remember. I made a lot of maps. Surprisingly, I made tons of maps ever since I was a little boy. I remember one of the very first, one of my oldest memories in elementary school was making treasure maps regularly for my friends, like burying a treasure and creating a map with like obstacles and clues and things like that. So I know I created lots of maps. Oh, I'm gonna be able to present it.
Hold on, I think I can bring it forward.
This is so so technically. What's going on, Doctor?
Do you see what I see? Do you see the map?
Not yet, but that happened with the video too. There was a delay.
Give it a moment.
All right, while we wait for the map. Was it like a theme park? Wasn't there a time? What I'm remembering is there was a time where had ambitions of being a theme park owner, like a gigantic. Like a Disney World class. Oh, here we go. I see me. Yes! Star Trek land.
You see the Starfleet symbol there.
Yes. This is a theme park. It's an imaginary land / theme park. This was like a Star Trek. Hey, Disney Imagineers, look, I was doing it back in high school. If you need help with theme park design, you could reach me through Starfleet Boy. It's amazing that you have that. What is that? Is that a video of the map?
That's a video of the map.
Wow.
Yeah, I would play more, but I don't. Not everyone is cleared for
for public screening. I
for
understand.
public screening. So
That is so cool.
Let me return it back
All right.
into the time vortex.
Wow, you were today. We really got a lot of TARDIS activity here. It was very exciting. Doctor, I can't tell you how pleased I am with this episode of Starfleet Boy. I had, like many things in life, I had different ideas way back 4 years ago when we started. I actually thought about this episode when we started our journey, and I had a very different idea, but I really loved the way it turned out. Thank you. This is very cool.
Well, I felt that she needed to be here somehow, and
it's very good.
If not in present, at least in through the past, we bring her and we have her as part of the show. So
I think the Empress will one day grace the show in some way or another. We'll see how that happens, but I will say that I did get, what was touching is that I did get a phone call from the Empress, and so I had a chance to catch up, and yeah, it actually lightened my spirits to hear the news of what's going on with the Empress. So I was pleased.
That's good.
And we talked about the mask. That was the best part of it. We went on a little bit of a reminiscing journey, and it was really cool. So even though the audience, I apologize, you don't get to see that.
It's all right.
But it happens.
Part of the mythology.
It is part of the mythology. Doctor, you've been so wonderful. I hate to end this show, but we gotta say goodbye.
Yeah,
we've got to say goodbye. Audience, if you made it this far, we appreciate you so much. Thank you. Please let us know in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. And Chris Collins, if you're listening to this, I haven't had a chance to go through all the comments yet. We've been going through a lot here, but I'm so excited to see your comments pop up again on the videos for Starfleet Boys. So I can't wait to go and dive into those. And yeah, that's it. So live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.